the lie we've been told about free markets? What if I told you that free markets are one of the greatest myths in economic history? Not just exaggerated, not just misunderstood, an actual reversal of historical reality. Here's what really happened, and why it matters more than ever. We've all heard the story. Markets naturally emerge when people are free to trade. Government interference distorts this natural order. Just get the state out of the way and prosperity follows. It's taught in Econ 101. It's repeated by politicians. It feels intuitive. There's one problem. It's backwards. In 1944, economic historian Karl Polanyi dropped a truth bomb that still hasn't been fully absorbed. The road to the free market was opened and kept open by an enormous increase in continuous, centrally organized and controlled interventionism. Wait, what? Let's break this down word by word, because each phrase dismantles a piece of the mythology. The road to the free market was opened. Notice, it had to be opened. Markets didn't just bubble up naturally when people were left alone. Why not? Because for most of human history, economies weren't organized around markets at all. They ran on reciprocity. I help you, you help me. Redistribution. Chief collects, chief distributes. I see custom and tradition. We do it this way because we always have. Price competition was rare. Profit-seeking was often seen as shameful. In medieval Europe, you couldn't just set up shop and undercut the baker down the street. Guilds controlled who could sell what. Village customs dictated fair prices. Land was tied to obligations, not ownership. Labor meant belonging to a household or estate, not selling hours for wages. So for markets to dominate society, for land, labor, and money to become things you could buy and sell freely, something drastic had to happen. Enter Polanyi's next phrase. And kept open. Even once you force markets into existence, they don't just stay there. Because markets that treat everything as a commodity destroy the things societies need to function. When land becomes pure real estate, communities get displaced. When labor becomes a pure cost, workers become disposable. When money becomes a speculative asset, boom and bust cycles wreck lives. Societies fight back. Peasants rebelled when their commons were enclosed. Workers organized when wages were cut. Communities demanded protections when factories poisoned their rivers. Left alone, societies instinctively protect themselves from market forces. So how did free markets persist? Here's the kicker, Polanyi's devastating conclusion. By an enormous increase in continuous, centrally organized and controlled interventionism. The free market required massive state intervention, not in spite of Laissez-Faire's ideology. To create it, what did this actually look like in history? Let's take England during the Industrial Revolution. Enclosure Acts, Goviti forcibly privatized communal land. Poor laws. Goft made it illegal to be unemployed without selling your labor. Combination Acts, Goft banned workers from organizing. Think about what had to be built for a self-regulating market. Private property laws, who owns what? Contract enforcement, courts, police. Patent systems, corporate charters, central banks. Currency standards, bankruptcy courts. None of this is natural. All of it is government construction. And when people resisted, when workers struck, or communities refused to leave their land, or merchants tried to maintain traditional protections, the state used force. Police, military, legal punishment. Free markets were enforced. While social protections, Polanyi notes, emerged spontaneously. This is why Polanyi calls land, labor, and money fictitious commodities. They aren't actually produced for sale. Land is nature. Labor is human life. Money is a social tool. Treating them as pure market goods requires pretending there's something they're not, and using state power to maintain that fiction. Okay, you might think, but that was the 1800s. Surely modern markets are different. Are they? Consider what's required right now for markets to function. SEC regulations, contract law and courts, central bank interventions, intellectual property enforcement, trade agreements and tariffs. When a company goes bankrupt, who decides what happens? Bankruptcy courts. When there's a financial crisis, who steps in? The Federal Reserve. When someone violates a patent, who enforces it? The state. Every single day, the free market is held together by continuous state action. So here's what Polanyi is really saying. The debate is not market versus state. The state is always already there, making the market possible. The real question is, who is the state intervening for and at whose expense? When the state, Enforces property rights, that's intervention, benefits owners. Enforces labor protections, that's also intervention, benefits workers. Both are political choices, but only one gets called interference with the free market. Why? Because there's enormous ideological power in pretending markets are natural and protections are artificial. If you believe that, then minimum wage is a distortion. At will employment cites freedom. Rent control stärkt interference. Eviction enforcement cites natural. But Polanyi shows both sides are state action. This completely reframes modern policy debates. When someone says, just let the market decide, the right response is, which market? The one designed by this set of rules or that set of rules? Because there is no neutral, rule-free market waiting underneath. You see this play out constantly. Regulate big tech versus let the market work. But patent law, Section 230, and network effects are all policy choices that created big tech's market power. Don't interfere with healthcare pricing, but we already intervene massively. Medicare, FDA, insurance mandates, hospital licensing, even cryptocurrency, often sold as freedom from state control, only works because property rights are enforced. Contract law exists. The internet infrastructure was built with public funding. Exchanges are regulated. Taxation rules define its legal status. You can't escape the state. You can only choose how it intervenes. Polanyi's insight cuts even deeper. Attempts to create a purely self-regulating market inevitably destroy society. Because when you turn human beings and nature into tradable commodities with no protections, you get social disintegration, environmental collapse, political extremism. He was writing in 1944, watching fascism rise from the wreckage of the Great Depression. His thesis, societies that experienced the harshest market disruptions, where land, labor, and money were most violently commodified, were the ones that turned to authoritarianism as a desperate counter-movement. Sound familiar? Here's what changed for me after reading Polanyi. I stopped asking, should the government intervene? I started asking, how is it already intervening? For whom? And is this arrangement serving human flourishing or just market expansion? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The free market was never free. It was designed. It is maintained, and it can be redesigned. The question isn't whether we use state power. It's whether we use it honestly and for whom. Next time someone says, the government should just get out of the way and let markets work, you'll know the truth. Markets don't work without governments. They never have. And the claim that they do is the most successful piece of economic propaganda in history.